On today's video, the third generation of infantry commanders, Guan Yu and Leonidas, are upon us. And in this video, we're going to talk about both of these commanders, whether or not you should consider expertising them or unlocking them, or what you should do with them and why. These two commanders are actually insanely good. Their shelf life is stupendous, and even Leonidas makes a comeback later in the meta where he was almost forgotten but then became a hero. So sit back, slap a like on the video, and let's go. Hey there, YouTube. Welcome back to Gekko Gaming. We're going to continue our series of whether you should work on a commander or not. And this time we reached the third generation of infantry commanders. Our previous video in the series was Attila Takeda, whether or not you should work on them. And spoiler alert, you should on both. And in this video, we're almost going to reach the same conclusion, and I'll explain to you exactly why and who you should prioritize. Before we start, though, don't forget to drop a like on the video and subscribe down below. And we're going to start with the priority, who is none other than Guan Yu. Guan Yu was the solidification of the strength of infantry in Rise of Kingdoms. The first generation of infantry commanders, Richard and Charles Martel, were much more defensive, tanky, and damage takers that are capable of taking a good amount of damage and holding while also dealing some damage. Richard being one of the biggest tanks in the game, while Charles Martel being one of the counter damage gods. They were meant to take a punch and deliver some damage in the process as well. As the series of infantry commanders continued to grow, we saw Alexander be the first infantry commander to kind of be like more damage dealing, in a combination of Richard with Alexander proved to be a deadly tanky damage dealing machine. But then came Guan Yu. And Guan Yu really shifted the meta in the infantry commanders in a drastic way. Let's start by going through his skills, and I'll explain to you why that is. Saint of War deals direct damage of up to 3 targets in a forward-facing fan-shape area, 2,000 damage factor if he's expertised, if a secondary commander, and 1,000 damage factor if he's secondary commander. If he's primary, 2,000 damage. Damage dealt to each target is reduced by 15% for each additional target, and at the same time, all targets are silenced for 3 seconds. This was the first time an infantry commander had AoE. As a matter of fact, this was the first time any non-archer commander had AoE. And, well, anyway, a meaningful commander for that matter. This guy, or better yet, a legendary commander, because you had AoE in epic commanders, such as you had Sun Tzu doing AoE from the beginning and all that. But this is the first legendary commander that had AoE that was meaningful in any shape or form. That is none other than Guan. Now, Guan not only does a ton of damage, but with the AoE became one of those must-be primary commanders, which now can be the pair for Alexander in the damage-dealing machine. Previously, the tank was the primary commander while the damage dealer was in the back, but now Guan Yu Alexander became such a crazy strong march, not only on the open field, but also as a rally insanity. 5 Tigers General, when attacking stronghold or a city, rally, or of course swarming on the open field, not really recommended though. Troops led by this commander deal additional 15% normal attack damage, and their normal attacks have a 10% chance to reduce the target's attack for 30% for 3 seconds. Slaying of Huang Jiang. Oh my goodness, I butchered that. Apologies. Infantry units led by this commander gain 30% increased attack, 15% increased march speed. Upon leaving the battle, this commander heals a portion of his slightly wounded troops all the way to 1,000. So this man made infantry move, which they were the slowest march out there. Now a little bit of extra march speed, more attack, and healing factor after exiting a fight. I mean, he was pretty much exactly what infantry was looking for. A decent-ish tank that can do some sort of buffs and debuffs and help out the infantry, not only to move on the field, but also to do damage. On top of that AoE, on top of that silencing, and can heal at the end of a battle. Oof. Green Dragon Crescent Blade, when the skill Saint of War hits exactly 1 enemy, it has a 50% chance to deal an additional damage factor of 1,000 When the skill hits 2 or more enemies, it has 50% chance to deal damage factor of 1400 to the targeted enemy. We're talking 2000 damage if you hit as a primary. Add to that 1400 damage. I mean, he is just a damage dealing crazy machine. And a new skill when he's expertise, when Guan Yu gains a shield, he also increases his skill damage by 15% for 3 seconds. When Guan Yu leaves a structure, he increases his march speed by 100% for 3 seconds. Do you see why these guys are meant to be? With Guan at the primary helm and our boy Alexander in secondary. This damage dealing machine for infantry was revolutionary for infantry. Is the first true constant damage. On top of that, AoE, which means insanely good in crowded fights, middle and arc of Osiris, ruins wars, KVK wars, you want to lead rallies, tons of rally capability with these commanders, an absolute must-have commander if you're looking for a good infantry damage-dealing pair. The top used pairs in ancient ruin fights in Season of Conquest and above are Guan Yu Alex, Guan Yu Leo, and Attila Takeda because of the AoE plus insane amount of damage that both these pairs do. Bottom line, do not skip on Guan. You definitely don't want to skip on Guan. I've built him a little bit, in a decent-ish way. I believe this is an open field build that we have going on in here. We went fully on the skill tree because we really want to do as much skill as we can. 3,400 damage factor is nutty. Add to that a little bit of extra health. We skipped on the rage, which could be a little bit better, maybe perhaps instead of reduced counterattack damage taken, but we wanted to get him a little bit more tanky, and this is kind of the build that I've been going with right now for Guan. We're going to test it in Ruins and see how this one works, but really, get your Guan, period. You're not going to regret it. Him and Alex, crazy damage. The second commander in here, though, is the one that is particularly controversial, but I would say controversial just because he was misunderstood for a very long time. When you have Alexander as the secondary commander, there's no reason for you to work on Leonidas. Why would you work on Leonidas if you have Alex secondary and Guan Alex is as insane as I'm saying? And that is true. For a very long time, Leonidas was underrated and underlooked and undercared for because everybody said the same exact thing. But I have Alex secondary. I don't need a secondary commander for Guan. However, Leonidas made a comeback, a big boy comeback, when Zenobia came out. Leonidas' skills go as followed. King of Sparta, troops led by this commander gain 25% increased health for 3 seconds all the way up to 30%. Deals direct damage factor to up to 3 targets in a fan-shaped area, not a forward fan-shaped area, so it can rotate around him, but it does only 600 damage. If the current target is affected by silence, which if he's secondary to Guan already potentially silenced them, or attack reduction effect, it takes an extra 50% damage. And that's just the start. When troops led by this commander consist only of infantry, they gain 10% increased defense and 5% increased rage, and they gain 5% rage quicker, all the way up to 15% faster rage, which means faster proccing, which means faster everything. Defense buffs of all the way to 30%. Honorable sacrifice. Wow. When troops led by this commander are reduced to 50% of units, incoming attacks have a chance to activate a shield, which can absorb large amount of damage. Remember the expertise that required a shield? Yeah, he triggers it too. As the shield is activated, all infantry units led by this commander gain 3% increased attack for 3 seconds. Shield takes 800 damage absorption and 15% extra attack bonus. While on the map, which for the record means everywhere, rally, open field, whatever it is, each attack has 25% chance to grant troops led by this commander 5% increased damage all the way up to 10% damage. Damage equals attack, counterattack, and skill damage as well. Any type of damage you're doing. Imagine that 3,400 plus another 10%. Ooh, that Guan is going to be nasty damage. Although it's for 5 seconds, so the likelihood of you proccing Guan again in 5 seconds is very low. However, it stacks up to 4 times, which means that you can keep stacking, and as long as you've stacked enough times, ooh, nasty damage can be outputted by these guys. And finally, a new skill as an expertise. When troops led by this commander are reduced to 10% of the units remaining, heal 400%. Troops deal 400% increased damage and take 50% less damage for 10 seconds. This effect can only be triggered once per hour after leaving your city. Leonidas is an insane damage increaser. He works extremely well with Guan through the silence and attack reductions, procs the shield, which gives Guan his expertise. And he was really a huge candidate to be a great secondary commander. But everybody focused on Alexander prior, and to work both on Guan and Leo at the same time wasn't something that most people could afford. And realistically speaking, Guan Yu and Alexander did fantastic as is. But then came Zenobia, which pretty much stopped everything in its path. And then Leonidas rose, because the only infantry pair before, and again, you can now say, well, Harold came out and now we have Nebu too. But we're talking prior to all that, the only pair that could put up against Zenobia was Guan and Leo. There were a couple of others that could do decently well, keep up with Zenobia, maybe beat it by a little bit. But the only time that I lost to a rally in KVK where it was not because we didn't have continual reinforcements and they did, when everybody had equal reinforcements, the only time I lost a garrison with Zenobia was twice against 2 Guan Leos. The Guan Leos destroyed my Zenobia. You need good gear and you need to have full infantry and T5s and obviously expertise commanders. But you can really cause insane damage. And so who should you work on? I would say Guan Yu is a must, is one that you really want to have. You need to have your Guan Yu Alexander done, because that's the fun infantry march out there. It's going to be the most beneficial for you long term. Guan and Alex and Attila Takeda are essentially the 2 most damage dealing, kill creating marches in the game, and up until this point at least. And they will guarantee you the kill scores you need in KVK, the rewards for kills, and good trades in most of the KVK events, Ancient Ruins, and Heroic Anthem, as well as Light versus Darkness wars in general. Guan is a must. Leo, on the other hand, is a very, very, very good should-have commander. But again, unless you can afford to do them both, and you know that that means that your Alex remains with your Richard and you have what to do with your Alex. For the record, Charles Martel and Alex are insane as well. So if you have Charles Martel, that works too. But if you're willing to give up on the Alexander, Guan Yu Leonidas is a nasty pair of commanders whose shelf life goes so far that the next set of infantry commanders bring in Zenobia. The 4th generation infantry commanders bring Zenobia, one of the best garrisons in the game, up until the next archers, and these guys can put up with her. So these guys hold a full cycle and more. These are the kinds of commanders you want to invest in. Commanders that can last more than 1 cycle worth of usability. And I can promise to you, even with Harold coming out, Alexander regains his prime capabilities, as Harold Alex is an insane march. And at that point, Guan Leo becomes the default. But we'll talk about that in the future video when we talk about Harold, whether you should work on him or not, and as well as Zenobia. But for now, I'm Gekko. I'm out of here. Appreciate you guys. Drop a like on this video. Subscribe down below. What do you guys think? Do you think my assessment of these commanders is right, wrong? Who did you work on? What's your feedback on this series? Let me know in the comments down below. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care and have a good one. Peace.